I first met him when he'd been in Britain for 1 week. He was with Akong Rinpoche, staying at the home of a family. And at that time he hadn't quite started Oxford yet. Mm-hmm. But then after that he would come 1 week, my mother and I would go to Oxford to see him one Sunday, and then next Sunday he would come to us in London. And so for about a year or two, we knew him very well. My mother would have these flowers, and she was learning ikebana. And he would, immediately he came, he would sit down on the living room carpet and start doing ikebana. Mm-hmm. He was already very fascinated with Japanese culture. And so later, when he became good friends with Suzuki Roshi and so forth, I wasn't really surprised, because he was already very interested in that sort of thing, which is very unusual for Tibetans. I mean, usually Tibetans get flowers and they just dump them into a tin, and that's it, And he would really sit and contemplate the flowers and then arrange them. I mean, in those days he was a monk, supposedly. Yeah. I mean, he actually wasn't really a monk, but anyway, he presented himself as a monk. And he didn't act. I mean, I at that time was 19. And let's say he didn't act in an appropriate manner for a monk. On the other hand, he lost out, because he kept presenting himself as being this pure monk who, until he met me, had never been tempted, but now. And I thought, yeah, right. But I thought he probably was a pure monk, because he'd just come from India and he had never had any opportunities. I didn't realize he already had fathered a child. So I was not going to cause a pure monk to lose their ordination. So there was no way. If he had said, look here, I've been having women since I was 13, I would have said, okay, let's go with it. But because he didn't, he produced himself as a very pure monk. I said, forget it, there's no way, But despite that, I felt this was the real thing. That despite the fact he was not at all my idea of how a Lama should be acting, there was something about him underlying all that which was very, very special. And I didn't know what it was. But I felt that I had met by this time a number of Lamas. But I just felt he was something very special. And at one point he said to me, look, you will find this hard to believe, but actually in Tibet I was quite a high Lama. And I never thought it would come to this, but please may I teach you meditation? I must have one student. So I said, well, all right, if you want. So then he started just on the basic Mahamudra teaching. But then at some point he said to me, anyway, I'm not your Lama's in India, so you will meet him there, and so you have to go. So I did.